Yes, guys, when it comes to this title sequence, oh yeah, it's going to be a doozy of what I'm talking about. Hello, guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, yes, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and for this video, guys, as it said in the title sequence, we're going to be talking about the difference between a 10, 11, and the 12th Doctor, but I admit, guys, it's not exactly what you think. What I mean by that is, oh, by the way, don't worry, there was not clickbait here. We're still talking about the difference between 10, 11, and 12. What I'm talking about, though, is in specifics. I'm talking about, with this video, the episode or the story that truly shows the difference between 10, 11, and the 12th Doctor. Sorry about that, I just could not fit it in the entitled title sequence in the video because YouTube only allows us a small bit for our title sequences, so I couldn't fit everything into the title. But we're still talking about the difference. But we're just being very specific with that difference. What I mean is, again, we're talking about the episode that really can mark the difference between 10, 11, and 12. Okay, now it comes to Doctor Who, the 10th, 11th, and 12th Doctor. Every now and again, I've heard someone say, oh yeah, the 11th Doctor is just like the 10th Doctor, or the 12th Doctor has moments where he was just like the 11th Doctor. Okay, if you feel that way, cool, but I don't agree with you. And oftentimes people say those things, they say it and they give no evidence to what they're talking about. And if you do give examples of how they're not incorrect, they say, well, your examples show how, actually no, they don't, there is no difference. But they don't explain how, they just make statements. So I'm like, okay, you know what? If you feel that way, fine, guys. It's how you feel, fine. But I'm going to give you a series of episodes that actually shows, even though 10, 11, and 12 every now and again have moments where their qualities overlap. They can be similar in how they react to things, maybe sometimes, most of the time, and at the core, they are three entirely different and separate incarnations. They have their own way about them. Again, they have every now and again a quality that might overlap into each other, but they, in all essentials, are very different from each other. And we're going to give 3 videos that show that. I'm sorry, not 3 videos. 3 stories, 3 episodes that show that. So what are we doing? Okay, what are these videos or episodes on? I keep saying videos when I mean episodes. Dear God, make up your mind, Philadelphia Whovian. When I say videos, guys, remember, I'm always meaning the episodes. Okay, the 3 episodes that mark the difference between all 3 of these very unique incarnations. We're going with the 10th Doctor, the episode of Midnight. The 11th Doctor, we're going with the God Complex. And the 12th Doctor, we're going with Mummy on the Orient Express. If you're thinking, well, wait a minute, each of those stories takes place at a different time of the Doctor's life. With Midnight, it takes place in the 10th Doctor's last official season. With the 11th Doctor, it takes place in his second season, and the 12th Doctor takes place in his first season, so their incarnations will be very different at those points, or they're at 3 different parts of each incarnation's journey. Each of these stories could happen at any place for me in each Doctor's timeline. They just fell where they were. But also, why I'm choosing them is because they put the Doctor, each incarnation, in similar situations. And we see through these similar situations how each Doctor reacts differently. Why? With Midnight, I believe, written by Russell T Davies. The God Complex, written by Toby Whitehouse or Whithouse. And we have The Mummy on the Orient Express, written by Jamie Matheson. If I'm wrong about any of those names, please correct me in the comment section. Guys, thank you. Alright, so when it comes to it, why am I saying they're similar? Because each time, each incarnation is in an enclosed space with other people, most of them he does not know, and the Doctor has to deal with an alien or villainous threat in this enclosed space, and he has to solve the problem, get it done, so before too many casualties occur. Now we got that done. So now that we've got the situation relatively similar, we can see by the similar situation how each Doctor reacts differently and therefore really expose some of the real, true, inward differences between each incarnation. Alright, now, first we got Midnight, written by Russell T Davies, but as I said, it feels heavily inspired by David Whittaker's story, The Rescue, from classic Doctor Who. Sorry, not The Rescue, what am I saying that? I mean, Edge of Destruction by David Whittaker. Not the rescue, edge of destruction. There, we got that out of the way. Guys, I'm a work in progress. What do you want from me? Sometimes things just go in my head. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? I don't know. Okay, so, I said before, it reminds me very much of David Whitaker's story, The Edge of Destruction, from the William Hartnell, the First Doctor's third story. Alright, but it's different. Like all the other stories, there's inspiration behind each of these stories, but it's different enough or it's creative enough to really still stand on its own. So Midnight has the 10th Doctor going to this place called Midnight, which is this really beautiful location. He's to travel there by this holiday craft, like this holiday shuttle craft, and has other tourists in there. Donna has stayed behind so she can enjoy herself at the spa. There we go. And here's a problem. There's a big crash, just a whole turbulence on this shuttle. And it turns out that the pilots were killed and they saw something out there, but we never see this, we never fully see the entity that is attacking this shuttle. We never actually see it. It's there, but we never fully see it. And then this entity begins to take over certain people or a person in the crew after killing the pilots, and up to the Doctor to calm down the people, the other people on this shuttle craft who are suggesting to throw out the person who is clearly possessed by this alien force. There's that. And we see the horror, the real terror of human nature in this, because the Doctor's trying to calm them down, but all of them insisting to throw the person out because they clearly are the problem. It ends with the Doctor getting possessed by the creature himself and almost getting thrown out of the shuttle, but the stewardess, at the last minute, realizes that the alien has taken over the woman, not him. She's taken his voice, and she grabs the woman who has the alien presence in her and throws, and literally, the stewardess sacrifices herself and just throws herself out of the shuttle to save everyone else, including the Doctor. Boom. Next we have The God Complex, written by Toby Woodhouse. This is inspired by the episodes The Horns of Nyman from the 4th Doctor's era, but has a tinge of The Curse of Fenric from the 7th Doctor's era. But again, it still has a lot of creativity of its own, so it still stands on its own and has a lot of good in there. It has with the Doctor, Amy, and Rory traveling, and then they land on this fake hotel where you have people who are trapped there from different parts of the world, and there is a Minotaur there, or a creature of the Nyman. It's there, and once something happens where you're there long enough and you give into something that you really believe in, to cling to your faith in something, and when you cling to your faith, you become ready, and the creature begins to come for you. So individually, we see this creature come for each person who begins to really put faith in something, and then once they put their faith in something to believe that they'll get out of the situation, the Nyman comes for them, because now the person is now open to belief, open to believing in something, so now they can believe in the Nyman. And eventually, of course, the Doctor does solve the problem, even at the expense of having his companion lose faith in him. So there's that, but also it's after quite a few people have died while he was there. Then we have the 12th Doctor with Mummy on the Orient Express. Again, written by Jamie Matheson. All these writers did a good job on these stories. Mummy on the Orient Express is, of course, a slight inspiration from The Murder on the Orient Express, the story, or the book, as you will. And it has where a person, literally, as they are about to die, when I say die, here's what happens. There's a mummy that they see, and they have about 66 seconds to live, because this mummy's going to come for them and kill them. And then the Doctor has to find out why this is the case. He's on there with his companion, Clara Oswald, and it has this beautiful, just classic vibe where everybody looks gorgeous. It's a beautiful feel. But again, we're in an enclosed space, and we have a mummy who is killing people, but we, like all the other stories, like Midnight, like The God Complex, and Mummy on the Orient Express, we have a monster that's killing, but we never actually see who the real culprit is. Because there was someone who the mummy was working under orders for. Somebody else was controlling this mummy to kill people every time their 66 seconds was up, the way the Nyman was being forced to kill people who were praising him by another external force. We never see the entity that is actually controlling all of these situations. the true evil remained invisible. We never know if it got its comeuppance, its just desserts. Okay, so now we got each doctor in the same situation. We got enclosed space, an alien presence that we don't see that's controlling or manipulating the situation is leading to these people dying. What is how we see the difference between each incarnation? We have the 10th Doctor. Okay, the 10th Doctor is immediately faced with this problem where everybody's panicking around him, and he tries to calm them down. He tries to get them from becoming irrational and just, we must be logical. He keeps trying to really get them to embrace their logic instead of embracing the hysteria or the madness that can come from being a human in this situation. Tries to keep them from throwing the woman out of the shuttle because, yes, she may be possessed by this monster, but she still is the woman underneath. Here's that. But what ultimately happens? The 10th Doctor fails. He does. Just being pure honest here. The 10th Doctor is not successful at this. Why? Because in his attempts to get the creature to speak to him while it's possessing this woman, it takes over him. Well, not takes over him, it literally steals his voice. It makes him immobile. It just disempowers him. And it tricks everyone into thinking that the alien, the threat, is inside him. And they are dragging the Doctor and about to literally shove him out of the shuttle where he dies in space. But what happens at the last possible second? The stewardess, who no one's name anyone remembers, sacrifices herself and realizes the Doctor's voice was taken from him. He is not the threat. It's this woman who is completely taken over by this alien force, and she grabs the woman and she holds her down and she sacrifices herself and she just hurls herself out of the shuttle with this woman to save the rest of the crew. The Doctor was saved at the last second. The 10th Doctor was saved at the last second by someone sacrificing themselves for him and for everyone else. And the true despair and the true sadness we feel that he has at the end of all that when he sees Donna again. You just see how dejected he is and how just completely unraveled he really is. And it's how almost disturbed he is, because he is disturbed. Then you get the God complex. I've already told you the plot line, but we got this each time. The Doctor has successfully tried to find ways to keep the Nyman from killing anyone. But what happens? First person gets out is one of the characters. His name was Harry, and he had a speech impediment, and he clung to something that he felt comfortable with and believed in, and he eventually, the Nyman was going to come for him. But the Doctor chained him up to protect him from himself. But another one of the people who were in the hotel, who comes from a people, or a race, if you will, because this alien creature looks very mole-like, lets him go because he has an intense fear of just everything. He comes from a race of people who automatically surrender to any threat or any force that comes to invade their planet. That's how much they are cowards at heart. This other person or other creature lets Harry go, and Harry goes and gets killed by the Nyman. And this is where we begin to see the real difference between the 10th and the 11th Doctor. When the 11th Doctor finds Harry's body and leans down and finds out that Harry is dead, and then the other person, the mole-like person, says, well, maybe the creature will leave us alone now. The 11th Doctor stands up, and he is completely silent. And you feel the wrath underneath this traditionally comedic person. You just feel his anger as he turns around and walks away from the other guy. Just completely enraged. And then we see how the Nyman eventually took another person who quickly was becoming important to the Doctor, Rita, the nurse. And after she dies, we see a quick moment of despair for the 11th Doctor. But what do we see after that? The 11th Doctor just grabs a desk and he roars and just shoves it. He completely is vehement in his anger. People have a tradition where they look at the 11th Doctor and see a comedic buffoon of a character. And that's all they see. And oftentimes people are constantly urging the fandom to say, no, the 11th Doctor is a character who uses his buffoonery to hide the fact that he is really dark inside and has a wrath within him. It's all a front, or it's all a different aspect of his character, so that when you see the true frightening sides, you get overwhelmed. But ultimately, with this one, the 11th Doctor does save the day. He literally sacrifices he sacrifices his companion's love for him or belief in him to destroy the threat. So at the end of the day, we got a doctor who at any cost will solve the problem, and he does. But he feels pain all throughout the process. Then we have the 12th Doctor with Mummy on the Orient Express. Again, we have a doctor who literally has people dying in 66 seconds every time they see the creature. And each time, the doctor is not attached. The 12th Doctor, we have this, with this incarnation, we have a doctor who is not attached to almost any of the victims who are dying. It's all about for him solving the problem so more people don't die later, but throughout all of this, he is just very not indifferent, he is just very pragmatic. He's like, well, you have 66 seconds to live. Tell me everything about the creature while you're seeing him walk towards you. A person describes the creature. Wow, the mummy is walking towards him, about to kill him. The man is describing it, and the doctor's all about gleaning information to solve the problem later on. So we have an incarnation who right now is all about he needs a companion with him to feel, because he doesn't always feel himself. This eventually changes, and the 12th Doctor does grow to feel. He does grow to feel. But we see a very distinct difference between each incarnation, because the 12th Doctor is successful. He is. So we see the 10th Doctor, who is very emotional, but even though the 10th Doctor has saved the day a few times, this is the midnight pretty much defines the 10th Doctor in a nutshell. It is him in a nutshell. He comes to help, he tries to calm everybody down, but often under him the madness continues, and sometimes it's not him who saves the day. He builds everyone up to save the day, but he is not the ultimate driving force. Someone else has to come in and save the day as well as save him. This happens a number of times with the 10th Doctor. He is a hero in some sense, but he also is the person who needs a hero to come in and save him in quite another sense at the same time. There's that. Then we have the 11th Doctor, who, yes, when he feels, but his feeling is not a feeling of just, oh dear God, I ruined this. It is, I am angry, I did not solve this, and by God, I will tear down the person who did this. Brick by brick, I will destroy. I will tear it down, and I will solve this problem in recompense for the person who died. And so there's a wrath there. There's a bubbling anger underneath this comedic veneer. And we have a doctor who you think he's bumbling around and not getting things solved, but ultimately he always does. People just don't notice it because they're too busy looking at his comedic nature. Then you have the 12th Doctor, the problem solver. Oh, he can solve a problem, but he is, at this point, is quite cold in how he solves it. We have a doctor who still needs to grow into feeling attached to things more often than not, but still a problem did get solved by him throughout the story. So you see these three different incarnations. Yes, they have overlapping qualities sometimes, but their core, they're very different. And someone even said I remember someone on YouTube comment section they talked about Midnight, and they talked about how the 11th Doctor's era had no good episodes, and they referred to Midnight. They were like, see, the 10th Doctor had Midnight. The 11 had nothing like that at all. But someone replied back and they said, of course the 11th Doctor had no episode like Midnight. You know why? Because the 11th Doctor would never have let a problem get that far. And when you really think about it, that's the thing about the 11th Doctor, is people often don't notice that the 11th Doctor is very good at solving problems very quickly. But because he's a he comes bumbles around and it's very comedic, you don't always notice he is the one solving the problem, but he actually is. So you see the difference between each incarnation through these episodes that puts them, each Doctor, in a similar situation. All three of them are heroes in one sense, but they get knocked down a peg or two in another sense. But again, you see the difference between each incarnation with how they handled these situations. So guys, that's my video in a nutshell, and I know there are other differences between each incarnations, other similarities. What episodes do you think can also mark a difference between each incarnation or shows a similarity? It's all about you. And with the 9th Doctor, I couldn't find an episode that I could bunch into here because I just didn't know one that was too similar to all three of these stories. But it all depends upon your perspective. If you found a 9th Doctor episode that you thought was similar to this, let me know in the comments section. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was actually quite fun, except for my sometimes miss-saying things. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon with a whole other thing to talk about. Bye, guys. Truly, peace out.